which we will learn the fundamentals of digital circuits. So for example, I hope you have learned in science that how to lit an LED, right? And you have sometimes seen that, for example, these days and outside there were LED bulbs hanging around with different patterns and so on. So if you are wondering how you are going to create such LED set of bulbs lit in different pattern, okay, so the answer is here. We will learn the basics, right? So in the fundamentals of digital circuits, we will discuss how we can create or how we can design small circuits, not very complex one, very small ones, right? Okay, and then once you finish this, I think we have the basics for computers. We will look at the software stuff, right? Now, if I ask this question like, Amadara, which operating system you have in your computer?
Windows 10.
Okay, so you know that, right? So you know that your machine is running on Windows 10 operating system. Movinia, how about you?
It's also interesting.
It's not very clear to me. Can you repeat again?
Windows 10.
Okay, right. So you know that there's a main software components running on the computer and which we call operating systems. So we will learn what are the main tasks of this operating system. So we have Windows. If you have Apple computers, we have Macintosh. If you have Apple phones, we have iOS. If you have like Samsung and any other phone which will run on Android, these are different types of operating systems. So we should know how these operating systems, why they are different, what are the features. So from A to Z, we are going to discuss what operating system is, what are the different types and so on, right? So that's totally we dedicated to learn different operating systems and operating system tasks, right? The next topic is data communication and networking. Okay, I'll ask a simple question, Amandara. What kind of internet connection you have at home?
I'm not sure, but I think like the Wi-Fi.
Okay, you have Wi-Fi. Is it a fiber connection or is it
Yes,
a broadband? Yeah, it's a
fiber.
fiber. Okay, yeah. How about Movinia?
It's also fiber.
Okay, yeah. So you know that you said the term Wi-Fi. So we should know what Wi-Fi is, what fiber connections are. What do you mean by broadband? These network technologies. So because of these technologies, we are connecting like this. Now, earlier we used to have physical sessions, isn't it? Now with the COVID situation, we had this online conference mode and we were, doing this. And now you have an opportunity to even to learn from top universities for free sometimes, right? So we should know what is happening, what do you mean by networking? We are connecting computers together. So now my computer and your computers are connected together. Now, if you're wondering how, okay, there are technologies developed over the years, and that's why we have the facility. You'll be at home, very relaxing environment. Isn't it, Amadara? Which one you prefer? The physical classes where you go somewhere and then sit and learn and come back home, or like being at home and doing, freely, access the classes? Which way you prefer? Your personal preference?
The second one.
Physical one.
No, online.
Online you prefer. Okay. How about Movinia?
I prefer physical classes.
Okay, you have physical classes. Okay. It's a perfectly all right. We were used to have physical classes and physical interaction we like because we met friends, we have fun time, that those things we'll miss, right? Isn't it? In online classes. But when it comes to learning, like if you really focus on to subject and then, you have to minimize the distractions, then what I personally believe is online is best. But then again, yes, you have to have physical classes as well, because you are going to miss the other parts, because it's not only learning, there are other things, right? So in that particular case, I think the physical classes are much better, right? But anyway, I mean, if the COVID situation continues, whether we like it or not, we have to use online, right? And even in the university right now, we have make a decision. Even we switch to physical sessions, we are trying to minimize as much as possible. We'll go for online. One thing is we can record and we can share the recording with you, so you can repeat. If you do not, if you miss something, you can replay again and again, so that you can go through the result. So there are benefits that in online education. So I think in that sense you can decide which one is your personal preference, but that's perfectly all right. I mean, I understand, and I hope to have at least couple of physical session, especially for practicals. I prefer physical sessions, so we can arrange here and there some physical session for both of you, so that you understands the subject well. And last topic in system analysis and design for the grade 12, where we will discuss how systems are developed, right? Now, for example, we are using Zoom software, isn't it? What do you know about
Yes.
Zoom software, Mavinya? Have you read about Zoom, or you have only used Zoom?
Only use.
Only used. How about Amadara?
It's kind of application software, something.
Yes, it's application software. Used for what?
Uh, Use to do some meetings and for communication.
Exactly, exactly. If you look at the history, actually, the person who has actually developed Zoom, actually, it's developed to meet his girlfriend. That's what the history says, because they couldn't meet physically, they were being apart, far away. So he developed a software to communicate with her, and later developed in a scale like this. Now, earlier when they developed, they have developed to communicate on within two between two person. But later on, now you can say millions of us are connected. So if you look at right now the statistics, millions of people are connecting through the Zoom. So if you're wondering how we are going to develop such massive software, right? If you're wondering how people actually develop a software like Zoom. Okay, so in this lesson, we will learn how people have designed such a system, what techniques they have used, how they have collected this information. So everything we will discuss in this last session on system analysis and design. Okay, so these are the 7 topics that we expect to cover in grade 12. Okay, anything if you want to ask from me on these topics?
Uncle, what is the hardest lesson from those lessons?
Okay, it depends. Now, if I talk about the theory, so this is a theory. Theory means you have to remember by heart. A lot of bunch of theory. Here also theory. And then always also theory. Here we have a theory plus some calculations. This is theory plus some modeling exercises. It depends. So some feel that if you are not good in mathematics, some they feel that okay, data representation and these logic circuits are more difficult than the other subjects. And some others, the most difficult one I have seen, they are having this networking subject, because there are some parts which sometimes students not understood well because they don't have practical exposure to these ones. So the difficulty, it depends, but I normally have seen people, students were complaining about data representation, logic circuits, communication, and some even, complaining on this one as well. And grade 11, especially people complain programming, which I think I am one of the best one to teach. Usually I do programming in different levels in the university as well as industry. I even train people in companies like Dialogue and Mass and so on. So I think that's one of the subjects that I'm really good at it, and I hope that will contribute to you. So those are some of the difficult topics. But for the grade 10, when you do data representation, you will see. So if you want me, I can do in parallel. So this is theory subject. I can start this a little bit early so that you have plenty of time to practice it. Hope I have answered your question, Amadar.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so let's move on to the topics in grade 13. So we will start really computing stuff. We look at databases, which means we discuss how we can store data and how we can manage. So for that, we have a special piece of software that we need to learn. And then programming using Python. That means we will learn how to write very simple computer programs. Now, in grade 12, we have learned basic stuff. Now here we will creating programs. So some of them, most of them actually complain in this part is more difficult compared to all the other subjects, right? Programming in Python. But I think if you do enough theory and practice, the questions are not that difficult. Only thing is you have to work hard anyway. So it's not an easy subject. Easy subject means, you don't work at the last minute, and if you try to, work on last 3 months and try to pass, no, you can't do that. But if you plan, this is, we have, let's say, at least 24 months, or let's say 20 months, then I think you can plan well and then execute this plan, right? In that way, I think you can get a better grade. Then we will learn web development. So you have already visiting websites, isn't it? So which website you visit most often? Yes, more frequently. So if you're visiting websites, which one you are going to normally visit more frequently?
The website means like YouTube or Google stuff.
Even YouTube is a website. Although you use it for watch videos, it's a kind of website. So you are use YouTube. What else?
Google Chrome,
Okay. What else?
Gmail.
Okay. Right. Mavinia?
Google,
Are
YouTube,
you, if you are reading, let's say, news, entertainment stuff, do you have any website that you prefer to, read those? Okay, right. Anyway, I think you have seen, right? So when you browse the web, you visiting a lot of websites. And if you are wondering how they have developed, we are going to learn in A levels for basic web development, right? How to create a website, how to use these different colors, animations. We will look at those. Then last three topics are actually in general. Internet of Things means like we have nowadays a lot of sensors out there. I hope you have seen that there are some lights detects our movement, right? And even we have security cameras which detects our movements and then record only that part. So these are these stuff, these small devices we will discuss under Internet of Things, or IoT in short. It's quite a popular topic nowadays, right? And very interesting. And then next subject is ICT in business, business application, and how ICT has changed over the years, how people, do business, right? For example, now accounting, for example, everything is computerized nowadays. You use software to do this, whereas early days we have done it manually, right? Then last topic is new trends and future directions of ICT. For example, nowadays we talk about humanoids, like robots. So like this stuff, and then we have autonomous cars. Like, have you heard about Tesla car,
Yes.
Movinia? Okay, yeah. So, for example, we have some other countries, not in Sri Lanka yet. Sri Lanka also we are having, we have a car company, I hope you know, developing a car here as well. But in Tesla, so it's actually autonomous a car they have developed, and people are really using that. So instead of right now in Sri Lanka, we are getting driving license, which means the humans are getting driving licenses. But foreign countries, for example, they gave, license for the vehicles. So you see things have changed over the years. So all these interesting stuff we will discuss under the last topic on new trends and future directions of ICT. And the last topic is a project which you are supposed to do, but this actually depends on your school and depends on, your ICT teachers in the school, and depend on what they decide. But basically, the things you have learned in here, you can use that knowledge to, come up with a project. Now, for example, you can create a website to sell stuff. You can create a website for a hospital, something like that. So you can have a project, and project actually based on, it handles through the school, especially they are the ones who are going to decide on that. But anyway, I hope I can help you out. Okay, so those are the topics we will have. So now I hope you have a clear picture what you are supposed to do in 2 years time, right? So allocated time is 2 years time. So you are going to cover 7 topics in grade 10, right? Again, 7 topics including project in grade 13. So grade 12 and grade 13. Okay, I think we are ready now. Any questions before I switch to theory or the lesson 1?
No.
Okay, good. Right. Okay, so having said that, you are ready. Today I'm going to start with the very first lesson. I would like to discuss about the paper as well, but I'm not going to go into details. But if you're interested, let me briefly show you the structure of the paper. So what we supposed to, do, right? So let me share the screen. Okay. So since you are familiar with this exam, I want you to I want to discuss how the questions they have set up. So there'll be two papers. In two papers, we have paper one and paper two. The marks are given out of 100, and then they'll divide by 2 for the final mark. And then in paper one, you have 2 hours of MCQ questions. We have 50 questions each for 2 hours. And you'll be giving 50 questions, right? So you have about 2.4 minutes to answer those questions, right? So that is paper one. Then paper two, again, paper two, you have 3 hours. In paper A, you have a structured questions, which means there will be a question and then you have the space already given to you, and then you are supposed to answer. So there'll be 4 questions. And paper B, you have essay type of questions. So you'll have like 4 questions to answer, and each question you will get 15 marks, right? So that's the structure of the paper. Right now, this is like 2018 paper. So you can see MCQs are like this. There are 5 options, not like in O levels. O levels, we have 4 options. Here we have 5 options. The questions, you similar to this one, right? So some are very theoretical ones, some with the diagrams, right? Some with the flow charts, some with the codes, right? So that's the structure of the paper. So there'll be 50 questions for the paper one, right? And then paper two, I told you like you have a part 2. So you have a question and you have a space given for you to answer, right? And similarly, you will sometimes give a code and then they will provide you the space you to answer the questions, right? So that's a structured part. And finally, you will have questions on, essay type questions. So you need to, write an answer, right? So this is how they have actually, designed the paper. So this is with the mark sheets that you will see. Right. So yeah, that's how we will have. Okay, so part B questions are like this. So this is one question on logic circuits, right? So you are supposed to answer a very detailed answers for the essay type of questions. So that's about the paper. Right, any questions up to this point, the paper and the marking?
Uncle, in the second paper, we need to do all the questions, no?
Sorry?
In the second paper, we need to do all the questions, no? I mean, we don't have anything to choose.
I think in the second paper, let me open up, let's say the recent paper. So this is 2020, right? You can see this is the first paper. And then we have 50 questions. And then we have essay type. Let me go to essay type, right? So we have essay type. First one is on structured essay. You need to answer all questions, right? Here we have 6 questions, and then you are supposed to answer 4 questions. So the structured one, you have to answer everything. So they will give you the space for the answer, allocated space, and then you have to answer all those 4 questions. So it's compulsory. And after that, out of the 6 questions, you can answer 4 for the essay questions. So this is the essay part. So you can see right. So can see like this. The paper is like this. So you'll have, we'll start with the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, put that right. Any questions on the paper?
No.
Okay. Have you seen the question papers of other subjects?
Still not the exact. I have seen the model. I don't know.
Okay, okay. But I think I want to give you I told you, like, I want to give you the true picture so that you know the subject and you know what is coming. And then I think you can plan for that, right? Without the last moment that you see the paper. I hope this is 2020 paper. And this is what you are supposed to do from another 2 years time, hopefully by 2023. Okay, right. I think enough නේ. මොන හරි පුතාලට තාය දැනගන්න දෙයක් තියෙනවද අපි පාඩමට යන්න කලින්? Nothing, right? Sure. Are you scared now? Amdara?
No.
No, right? Mavinya?
No, sir.
No. Now, believe in me, I mean, like, if you work hard from the beginning, usually my style is I will have a lot of interactive activities. Okay, why don't we try interactive activity? No? I will give you simple one, don't worry. Let me try. These are some of the way that I actually use to teach. Let me give you a very simple one, but don't worry, huh? If you missed. So in my teaching, I'm using different tools. One of the tools is all the MCQ questions will have like a mode of playing games, right? For example, let me show you one, because I'm going to use this a lot and you should know that I'm using this. So let me introduce that one as well before the theory, because when the theory starts, it will be boring most of the time if you do not interact with me, right? So can you go to kahoot.it? I will type the website name in the chat and wait there, right? So let me take this chat. Can you go to this website? Yes, I have typed in the chat. Can you click on that link and be there? I will give you I indicate how to proceed from that point onwards.
Do we need to enter?
Yes, this works in like this, which means you have to enter a pin code. I have to give that pin code. You wait for the pin code. I will give you now. I do not expect any answer from this, right? You might not know, but just to show you how it works, right? But you can have random guessing, right, for this. So let's start, and I will share the screen. Okay, I'm going to change the screen. Let me know whether you can see the screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
So this will be a game, right? The game works like this. So usually you will get a game pin. Can you type the game pin? Then it asks a nickname. Type some other name. I don't mind. You can use your real name or some other name. Doesn't matter. This is for just to have a fun. Movinia, can you join, please? Okay. Movinia said her connection is not stable. Amma, you can try this, huh? Although you have the only one. This is just to show you like how this system works. Um, wait. Right. Oh, okay. I'll ask my son to join. Just to have some players, because otherwise. Okay, let's start. So it will ask a question with some answers you are supposed to answer within a given time. So I know definitely you don't know the answer for this one. So don't worry, just select some arbitrary answer. If you can figure out it, I don't mind. But just put a arbitrary answer just to see how this is going. Both of you got correct answers. So the marks are based on how quickly you have answered the question. Now, in this case, the Cyan actually faster than Amma. Doesn't matter. I mean, like, this is how the game works. Okay, so that's also correct answer. So it goes on like this. I told you this is just for fun. And we don't know. I know that you don't know the answers. And this is the last one I'm going to try. I'm going to skip. Right. Okay. I think it's enough, right? So I will skip. I'm going to end game, but I think you got the idea. So this is how the game works. So I usually prefer this way to learn from MCQ ones. Right. Now let me show you how to work with essay type questions. Right. Now for that, I'm going to use another the tool. So the other tool that I'm going to use whenever I need to get an answer, right? Now I'm going to have only one question for this. Right. Okay, so there's again a website you need to visit. Can you visit www.menti.com? Right. So I have switched it. Hope you can see now. Can you go to www.menti.com and use the code given here 79862622. Type whatever you feel. That's perfectly all right, just to give you an idea like how the tool works.
Uncle, what do I need to put? I mean, like
So you have to type
anything?
whatever you have learned so far in the class today. Have you learned anything so far? No? I don't know. Whatever you have learned so far, just type something. This is very interesting actually if you have like many students in the class, because then different students type different things and we can see what people think, right? In the same class I used to have, then different students learn different things because I asked them to name 3 things, right? We spent about like 80 minutes. So what are the things you have learned so far? Oh, good. So right now we have, I think only Amma has answered. Okay, good. So now I can summarize. We discuss about the paper. We discuss about the competency that you need for the paper, right? And the syllabus, yes. We discuss the contents. Whether ICT is hard or easy, it depends, as I told you. If you look at the statistics, it's hard, but not for everyone, right? It's like mathematics, maths වගේ තමයි. පුළුවන් අයට හොඳට පුළුවන්, බැරි අයට බෑ. මම සාමාන්‍යයෙන් එහෙම තමයි කියන්නේ. කියන්නේ we have a camel shape. අතර මැද්දේ එක්ක පුළුවන්, එක්ක බෑ. පොඩ්ඩක් පුළුවන්, භාගයට පුළුවන්, එහෙම අය හරි අඩුයි මේ සබ්ජෙක්ට් එකේ. Right, enough. I think we have done with the tools. So let me go to the whiteboard. And let's start. Right, okay. Let me share my screen. This is the whiteboard. Let's start. The topic is our first lesson, right? Our first lesson. One. In short, title for this is Basic Concepts of ICT. So we are going to start with that. So in this lesson, few things we are going to learn, right? And I think we spend about like 1.5 days or maybe about 3 hours or so to discuss what data and what is its life cycle is, right? Okay, so let's take down. The very first thing I would like to discuss, this is about data and information, right? Now we use computers to convert whatever the data to information. We use computers for that. Now let's say, now if I take weather today, yes, Samadara, can you tell me what was like the weather today?
It was like a little bit gloomy, but now it's good, sir. Like it's like a little bit sunny.
Oh, we can say overall, we can say sunny, isn't it? Yes,
Yes.
good. But if you want to know exactly how the weather might be in next couple of days, where you can find that information? Yes, Movinia?
From the weather forecast.
Yes, we can go to a website and can find out what it looks like, right? Okay, so let me show you. Now this is I have taken from Google. I type what is the weather today, right? And this is what I have got from weather.com. And it tells me that today's weather in Kandy, right now, it's 11 o'clock, they say. By 11, it's sunny. Let's talk about the precipitation and humidity and wind. But overall, we can say today's a sunny day. The highest temperature is 29 degrees and the lowest temperature is 16 degrees. And the prediction means the future, tomorrow and day after tomorrow, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and it goes up to Saturday. So they actually predicted for whole week. And this is very interesting. Amadara, can you tell me why this is interesting?
Because we can, I mean, we can get the information about future activities. Okay.
Yeah, we can get the future activities. And my question is, why do you need to get that future activity? Why are you care about the weather, let's say next Tuesday?
To predict the future activities.
Yeah, but it's already done, right? They say this. So how useful it is for us, that information?
To get some decisions.
Exactly. What kind of a decisions, for example?
Like uh, whether you're going to school or something.
Yeah. Well, let's say you are trying to plan out going out, right? You're going out, let's say you ask a couple of friends and then you're going around somewhere. So which day you prefer? Is it a rainy day you prefer or sunny day you prefer?
Sunny day.
You prefer sunny day, isn't it? So when you're planning your activities, okay, you can look at this weather and then you can make decision. How about the farmers? Movinia, what do you think? Is this helpful for the farmers?
Yes,
Why?
because they can get to know that when it's raining and
Exactly. Now sometimes they have crops, right? They have to, when they mature, they have to cut it out, get this And if it is raining, they can make decisions whether they are going to harvest, for example, before the weather or after the weather. You have to make that decision. Right? You see. Now, tell me who gave this information? කවුද අපිට මේ data දීලා තියෙන්නේ? කවුද මේක මේ වැඩේ කරේ? මේ prediction එක කරේ කවුද? Who did that part?
Computer.
Yes, Amadara.
Not sure, but I don't know how to do it.
Yeah. Now this information come from the website weather.com. Right? First of all, let's visit weather.com just to see how they do this. And I will show you a video exactly how do they do this. So this is the weather.com. How do they do this? This is what we should know. I mean, like, since we are going to learn the subject, one thing is we should know how they were doing this. So you can visit this website for some time. You can read a lot. But just to give you an idea, they collect a lot of data. They collect a lot of historical data. What do you mean by historical data? All the weather patterns. Whether there's a rain, what is the highest temperature, what is the lowest temperature, all these data they have collected. And once they collected that, right? Once they collected that, they will create what we call the weather model, a computer generated model to predict our future. It's very complex mathematical model, but they use the data that they have collected, right? So they do have the technology, and it's based on the ICT techniques that we will discuss, right? So you can say they can go into very detail, right? If you look at these charts, you can see that they can tell us a lot of things about, Kandy right now. How this is possible? The data collected over the years, and then they have used computers to generate computer models, which we call it. And then using those models, they predict their future. And it is useful for everyone, isn't it? The farmers and for a general public and even the others, right? Which sometimes we might not think about this. So they'll be using this information. Now, for example, if it is a raining tomorrow, I will plan to bring an umbrella, isn't it? So that is what we need to do. But the information, how do they collect? Amadara, what do you think? How do they collect? Like now, this company is in US, but they are predicting weather in Kandy. And for that, they need the data from Kandy, isn't it? How do they capture data?
Actually, Andra, I was just about to ask that question. Yeah, actually, I was just about to ask that question, but
yeah, I mean, we have to have some way of collecting weather information, isn't it? So we have meteorological department in Sri Lanka, and they collect this information, and then others can purchase that information, others can share that, everything happens with the ICT technologies. Now, for example, they may be creating a database, and they may, use that information from US. You see that this is very complex, but one thing you should know is data should be gathered somewhere, isn't it? That we have to agree. Now, whether the raining, for example, the rainy data, we have to collect somewhere physically, isn't it? We have to ask somebody to collect it. I hope in science you have learned how to measure the rainfall. Have you done in O levels?
Yes, sir.
Huh? Yeah, I mean, if you look at like even you can use simple container to collect, rain, and that is can be used to measure the rainfall. But there are professional equipments as well. But somebody has to collect, right? Collect over the years, then they have to communicate this. It's not only raining, the highest temperature, lowest temperature, pressure, humidity, you can see. There are a lot of things. Wind direction. So all this data is actually put into this model, right? So the data capturing is another thing, right? So there'll be a life cycle of this data whenever we want to get some information. So I actually taken only one example, this weather example, but to understand, and I will share with a video also like how they actually do this. If I remember, I didn't exactly remember the video, but let me check. Weather modeling, right? In YouTube, remember there was a video, very nice video on how they calculate it.
Excuse me.
Yeah,
So how do they collect data?
yeah, there will be a physical locations throughout the country, and meteorological department collect that information, and that information, that data is available for the others to purchase. So when it
Okay.
comes to government, we can share for free, like they might having their own arrangement for sharing, but there are some department who's responsible for collecting this data. There are weather stations, we call it. So in weather stations, they collect this data.
Okay.
Yeah, even in university level, we also collect for our students. For example, they collect this information. We have our own equipments. But if you need like throughout the country details, we have to go to meteorological department to get that data. So it's not free, because you know that the collecting needs they spend some cost on collecting the data. So the data is not free actually. Okay, right. So got the idea. Now you see that this is a cycle. Now this is actually first topic. I spent some time just to give you an idea. But what I want to tell at the end is, when you talk about the data, there will be a life cycle of data. So let's write down this life cycle of data. So there will be a life cycle. Sorry, it's two words, the life cycle of data. So there'll be a cycle, right, of data. Right now, can you tell me what might be the steps? Now we have already discussed this, but can you guess what are the steps we have in this life cycle of data? Yes. First one, data creation. So we have to have steps to create the data. We need to create the data.
Excuse me, uncle, you're not sharing the screen, I think.
Ah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm not sharing my whiteboard. Sorry. Yeah, oh, hope you can see. Okay, let's take down. So life cycle of data, right? So let's write down many activities depends on decisions made by humans. For example, if you take a farmer, you take a farmer, example, farmer should make decisions, various decisions, right? So they have to decide on, make decisions on what? The crops. That means what to, put or what to use, whether, fertilizer, so now people make the different decisions on different things. But for that, we need information, isn't it? We need information, a quality information to make decisions. Information should be the main source. Yes. Example, based on the weather information, like we can say www.weather.com. We can plan activities. So this weather information we can use to plan different activities. No decisions can be made without quality information. Not just information, information of good quality, that's what we need. the process converting data into information right. Okay. That was a good question. I think I should answer. Now, first of all, tomorrow's weather is a information, right? And today's rainfall is data. Today's wind speed is data, right? Tomorrow's weather is a information. So likewise, if you take a class, let's say we have like marks for mathematics, marks for ICT, those are data. But if you take average marks of the class, then it becomes information. Amadara, you got the point?
Uncle, can you just further clarify that? I can't.
Sure. Now it's like this. Now if you take things as it is, they will be data. Now like in this weather problem, the rainfall data, wind direction, wind speed, they all data. But if you say tomorrow's weather, that will be information. So data as it is are useless, we say, but information is useful. Now, if you say wind direction is towards north, it's nothing to me. But if you say that tomorrow is a rainy day, that is very important for me. So usually information is useful. Right, let me give you another example. I'm going to say Amadara's ICT marks around, like marks is, let's say 80%. What can you tell about Amadara?
Like she's little bit good.
She's good.
Nicely.
Huh? She's good in ICT. But all the others are more than 85%. You never know, right? 85. Can you make a decision based on the just a number?
But only for that subject we can make a decision. Eh?
That if you assume that 100 is the full marks, is it?
Yes.
Okay. Let's say the marks is, let's say ICT marks is 25. What do you think?
It's bad.
Is it bad? Huh? No, I mean, yeah, actually you have a point there, but I think it should be compared with the average marks of the class. Let's say the average marks of the class is 90, whereas Amadara's marks is 85. What do you think?
It's not good.
It's not that good. Exactly. Similarly, let's say the marks is 25, but the class average is 10.
And then it's good.
Yeah, you see, it's always like that. If you just, we normally say data as it is useless. If you know like marks of a particular student, that will be useless. But if you know that average marks of the class, it'll be more useful than just marks of a one particular student.
That means like we can't. I mean, like we are telling that it's useless, like because we can't make decisions.
Yeah, in data, normally to make decisions, we usually use information. And I told you it should be quality information, right? So now, for example, let's say now these days we were discussing about the cricket and player performance. So what are the things we should now look at it? Is it like what they have played yesterday or what they have played throughout the tournament?
Throughout the tournament.
Yeah, it should be normally the averages we look at it, right? Isn't it? Average means sometimes they played good, and some days they play bad, good and bad, and then all together we have to average out. And the average is the information, right? Not that marks or what they have scored for a particular match.
Okay.
Yeah. So I hope you got the point. So usually if you have marks and the average marks, then average marks is the information, but the marks considered as data. Right? Now, if I take rainfall data, today's rainfall is a data, whereas average rainfall of the month is information. So usually it will always involve with the process. Process means we convert data into information. Now, for example, what do you mean by averaging? You collect a set of values and then you average out, right? Divide by the number of, let's say, days, right? Then you'll get the average number. So that average number is a process data, which we call information. Right. I hope you got the idea now. Right. Now, what we're going to say here is the, yes.
Misaka, we are telling it as usual. I mean, like useless or meaningless compared to information. Eh?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, we will say whenever we want to make a decision, we need information. That means process data. We usually say data as it is, usually they are useless. You can't make proper decisions based on data. Like I said, 85. It's not a proper decision. You said she's good. It's not a proper decision unless you compare it with average marks of the class.
Yes.
Yeah, you got the point, right? So this you will see this in coming sessions as well. So this process of converting data is information, right? Identified, can be identified using life cycle of data processing, right? So the steps that we are going to discuss first of all, this is a cycle. I will explain what it is called a cycle. You have learned about the cycles, right? So there are the steps. So here is the life cycle. We are going to have the first data creation, right? Then data management. Finally, we'll remove obsolete data. Sometimes they are not relevant. We have to discard some data or outdated data, right? So under this, we'll write down the first one. What is the first one? Data creation. Right? We have data creation. So in data collection, we consider different methods of data collection. Interviews means you meet some person in person and then get required data. Likewise, you can observe, you can go to a place and you go observe something happens. Now rainfall data, some people observe and then they report. Then you can have quizzes. You can aim particular questions, you can answers from the users. You can refer different documents to collect the data. You can have surveys. You give a questionnaire, you get data you need. So this phase we call data creation. So that's the first step. Right. So the second one, let's take down the data management. First step is you calculate. The second one, yes, data management. You have to manage data. Finish?
Yes.
Okay. When you say data management, once you collect the data, You have to find whether the data is valid. Now let's say we are collecting marks of subject. If somebody, enter data as 125, is it a valid mark?
No.
No, right? You ask somebody to enter telephone number, he enter telephone number with 9 digits. Are you going to accept?
No.
No, right? Usually you have to have 10 digits. Similarly, you are trying to get person's age. Somebody type 150. You are not going to get it as a valid data, isn't it? So whenever you collect the data, when you're managing, you have to go through the data and see whether this is valid data. Even for rainfall, now you ask somebody to collect the rainfall information. Some can cheat the system, isn't it? They might not observe the real data. They might just cheat and type something. We should have some ways of validating the data, isn't it? So one example is you can have like 3 persons to collect the same data. Then we know that if at least 2 persons agree, right, we know that this is correct data. So likewise, when you management, you have to validate the data. That's the first step. Once you validate, you can store. You can store inside the computer. We'll discuss that later on, right? There are different ways we can store the data. And the third one is you need to protect the data. What do you mean by protecting? Moina, tell me, what do you mean by protecting?
Survival access.
Yes, unauthorized access, for example. Now you have marks of particular subject marks for students. Do you think can everyone access those data?
No.
No, right? Because exam information should be protected from unauthorized person, right? And sometimes there are, power failures. Computer might be crashed and you are going to lose your information. How do you protect? Amadera?
Don't know.
You can keep copies. Now you save everything in your phone. You take a lot of pictures. What if your phone dead by tomorrow? Is there a way that you can recover the data?
We
No.
use them in a computer.
Yeah, you have to have a copy in the computer, yes. We normally call you should keep a backup of your data. If you back up your data every day, then you are going to lose a day of information. If you back up your computer, let's say 1 month's time, you are going to lose 1 month's data. If you didn't back up your data, if I ask you like, when did you back up your computer? Amadara? Did you keep a copy of your data somewhere now?
No.
No. Okay. Yeah. Mavinya?
No.
So you both are about to lose all your data. We don't know. I mean, like, you understand my point, right? So data, if it is an important one, for example, weather data, very important. So we need to protect. So one thing is we need to protect from unauthorized users. The other one is like there can be natural hazard. There will be flooding. There are like power, issues. So you might lose. So you need to protect this process data. And the last one for today, we'll finish with this. Removal of absolute data. Oh, sorry, absolute data.
Excuse me, uncle.
Yeah.
For example, like if we typing something in the computer and if there is a power cut, how can we get that again?
You can't get that again unless you save it. The reason is when you type something, right now I'm typing something, I didn't save this document in my whiteboard, except it will automatically saved, right? So because whenever I type, it will be stored in a random access memory or RAM, which is a temporary memory. So when power goes off, whatever you type goes off. Simple as that. There's no way you can get it back. So only way that you can keep is frequent saving of your work. So
How
you
you
can
say?
save it as a file, or you can ask the software, let's say Word, to save every like 30 seconds time or something. You can set it like that. Okay, shall we finish by putting the last one? Removal of absolute data. Let's type that. This is the third one in the life cycle. Removal of absolute. Right. Now, after some time, some data is not useful. Right? So this removal actually, the value of the data depends on time, doesn't it? Now, for example, now you're schooling right now. Another 5 years time, now usually we keep track of your performance, your marks for the subjects and so on. What do you think? Another 10 years time, do you think that information is, that data is important?
No.
No, right? So when you leave the school, then you see the importance degrades, which we will discuss later on, right? So the value of the data depend on time. Now, what example? Now, in the information about the school, right? Then you can keep it, otherwise you can remove. Now, I said the example. The data about student in school is required as long as the students are in school. The need for that data diminishes, right? Sometime after student leave the school. So the value of the data, remember, depends on time. Now, similarly, rainfall data, another example, right? So for example, we can say Department of Meteorology. The department uses data in every 10 years time. If that is the case, right? After 10 years, whatever the older data, yes, 10 years time, after 10 years, it is not important. So you need to remove. So make a note of this at the last point. When we figured out that data is not important, we need to remove. Right? So when we say the data is no longer needed, then it should be removed from the system. It should be removed from the system.